I'm going to read her bio. Miss Ayanna Morris. Yes. Yes. Pixie dust. A film director, an exhibitor, recently completed her first feature-length documentary, Why Is We Americans? Co-directed by Yudi Aloni and executive produced by Lauryn Hill. The film is an exploration of the iconic poet Amiri Baraka, his wife Amina, and their son, Raz, our mayor. A portrait of a city emerges with an inspiring call to arms in the fight for class and racial justice. The legendary Baraka family took this by storm with reviews in New York Times and the LA Times. Morris made her mark in Black history by opening the first Black-owned drive-in movie theater, Newark Moonlight Cinema. Clap it up! With her husband, Sheree Morris. The success of Newark Moonlight Cinema is one of the most feel-good viral stories to come out of the pandemic. In 2020, Morris made her directorial debut with the compelling visuals for Raz Baraka's What We Want, the first single and the title track from his spoken word album. In 2010, Ayanna Morris opened Leopard Stripes Productions, a media production and digital marketing company. Her ultimate goal is to tell compelling stories that push the narrative of her culture and community. Please, a huge round of applause for Miss Ayanna Morris. Now, about the artist, baby. Bisa Butler was born in Orange, New Jersey, the daughter of a college president and a French teacher. She was raised in South Orange, the youngest of 4 siblings, which are over there, okay? I saw y'all when y'all came in. Butler's artistic talent was first recognized at the age of 4 when she won a blue ribbon in an art competition. Formally trained, Butler graduated cum laude from Howard University. Okay, ain't you? Y'all HBCUs, y'all stay ready, okay? It was during her education at Howard that Butler was able to refine her natural talents under the lectures such as Louise Malou Jones, Elizabeth Catlett, Jeff Donaldson, and Ernie Barnes. She began to experiment with fabric as a medium and became interested in collage techniques. Butler then went on to earn a master's in arts from Montclair State University in 2005. While in the process of obtaining her master's degree, Butler took a fiber arts class where she had an artistic epiphany and she finally realized how to express her art. As a child, I was always watching my mother and grandmother sew, and they taught me. After that class, I made a portrait quilt for my grandmother on her deathbed, and I have been making art quilts ever since. Bisa Butler was a high school art teacher for 13 years, 10 in Newark Public Schools, and 3 at her own alma mater, Columbia High School in Maplewood, New Jersey. Yes, that's a Jersey girl, y'all. Butler's work was most recently the focus of a solo exhibition at the Katona Museum of Art in New York that will travel to the Art Institute of Chicago. Her works are included in the collections of the Art Institute of Chicago, Minneapolis Institute of Art, Museum of Fine Arts of Boston, Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, Newark Museum of Art, the Toledo Museum of Art, and Orlando Museum of Art, among others, okay? In 2019, Butler was a finalist for the Museum of Arts and Design Burke Prize. Her portrait of Nobel Peace Prize laureate Wangari Maathai was featured as a cover for Time Magazine's special issue honoring the 100 Women of the Year in 2020. Can we please give a round of applause for Ms. Bisa Butler?
Before y'all sit down, stand up, ladies, stand up. I'm sorry, I like sit down, stand up. I want y'all to give yourselves a round of applause because all of you look so beautiful. I live for a fashion moment, and y'all are bringing it today. So give yourself a round of applause. Mrs. Butler, well accomplished. That bio, I was like, yes, check it. She's doing her thing. It's funny that a lot of you didn't know that Bisa was a Newark Public School teacher, and that's where we originally met. I, too, used to be a Newark Public School teacher. We worked together at History High School.
Go History.
Yeah, History. That's another H school, not HU, but HH. Yeah, so there, I was like a first-year teacher, and Bisa and some of our other colleagues that are here today really took me under their wings, and I'm just so proud to see how you've grown and you've blossomed, and, you know, I'm like your biggest cheerleader. I'm always in your DMs like,
thank you. And it's mutual. It's mutual, me watching you just make a whole world. Like I just told your mom, you're a creator. And you create the world that you want to exist. It's a beautiful thing. Shout out to all the teachers.
Yes. That is a thankless job. And y'all need more money. All right. So let's get started. How did you find the will and the courage to leave your steady teaching job to pursue art? Because, you know, being an artist is a struggle, like being a filmmaker, and not everyone is fortunate enough to really be able to do it and make money from it and make a living out of it. So what encouraged you to take that leap of faith?
Well, I want to say that I'm not a real risk taker. So when some people are like, they're thinking that I just walked out and jumped into the abyss, it's a whole village. And all along, like my fellow educators were buying artwork from me and supporting me. And then I have a strong family network, my husband, my father, my sister. So I knew that there would be a net under me when I took that leap. But what really told me that it was time was that my mother taught and my aunts taught, and both my mother and my aunt, I lost them young. They were in their like mid-50s. So it let me know that you have this one life and you need to take those opportunities when you can. So I always kept that in mind. Don't retire and then do it. That could work for other people, but because I'm also looking at the family history, I'm saying, I think I'm gonna need to jump a little bit earlier. And when it was time, that was 5 years ago, I felt like this is what I want to do. So I had a conversation with my husband, John, and I had a conversation with my father. I always consult the elders. You know, I'm very African with that. I don't just like jump. I want to find out from somebody who's been there. My father told me, well, for those of you who don't know in the audience, my father is Dr. Zachary Yamba, and he was the president at Essex County College for 87 years? He almost made 40 years. So I'm asking somebody who knows, what should I do? And he said, take a sabbatical. And I was like, no, doing that. Because, and I didn't think that was fair to my students and my faculty and the other staff. Oh, I'm going to be back in a year when I know that I'm not. So my husband had us consult a financial advisor, and you all know the pay scale of teachers. Yeah. The advisor looked at what I had made through art. This is just a little sales and teaching, and it was a flat line. He was like, you're actually not taking any risk at all. So I was like, whoa, that was time.
That's hilarious. Like your journey, my journey is really similar. When I decided to leave teaching, I had to sit my husband down. I'm like, look, sir, because I went and taught to support him while he started his real estate business. And I was like, look, It's been 3 years now. And I don't know what you're going to do, because next year I'm not returning to teaching, so you better figure it out. We didn't have a financial advisor back then. It was just like run the numbers and make it work. Your work has paved the way for a totally new art form. Why use quilts, and explain your creative process?
Well, quilts are something that we have been doing as African Americans in this country since we got here. And we had to stay warm. It's a thing of necessity. So it's very old. And even before that, the design style that a lot of African American quilters use with like strips, and it's improvisational. If you look at African textiles like kente, you see that same strip pattern. And even when African American quilters from way back in the day, I mean like before slavery ended, when they made their own quilts, they started cutting out shapes of animals and stars and like depicting Bible scenes. And when you look at those quilts and you look at the banners from Benin, they are nearly identical in the shape of the animals. So we have been creating this fiber art for thousands and thousands of years. I think the only difference between me and them is that I'm living now. So my art reflects now, the fabrics that I have access to now, the time that I have to work on my quilts now, and I'm always reflecting on the history, who came before. So like the piece of Frederick Douglass, and I did a portrait of Harriet Tubman, but I'm always thinking about who did it before me and what can I learn from them.
Does it make you feel more connected to your ancestors in creating this art?
Absolutely. Like if you look at this one, I was just flipping through, I say flipping, but I was online clicking through the images on the National Archives. And an image of Frederick Douglass popped up. And this image is arresting. Like he makes you stop and look. You can't really look quick. And I hadn't seen Frederick Douglass young. Like I hadn't seen a lot of photos of him young. And so I realized that there was something that I completely missed about him. Thinking of the elder statesman and this man who had been free for years and was now an orator was a lot different than Frederick Douglass at like 28, who was recently escaped and was still a wanted man. When he took this photo, he said that he stole his whole body away from the slave owners. So he himself was a person who was living under the threat. But he's staring at the camera at that time like, I'm a man and I deserve to be free, and you're going to recognize that. And so that gaze jumped right back from the past to me. It was still saying the same thing and like arresting me right there. So I felt like I was having a communication with Frederick Douglass about what is the nature of a man who's 29 or 28 but has that gaze? What is it like for a man who he said he never saw his mother in the day, he only saw her at night? What is the experience of a person like that, and what does that change inside of you? And so when I'm working on it, I'm also reading his words in his autobiography or his narrative, and really starting to understand, what does that feel like? It's one thing to read it, but it's another thing. This quilt took about 200 hours. So it's another thing to be looking at someone's like a one-on-one, very intense conversation about what it is that made me.
You speaking of that.
Thank you.
You speaking of that reminds me of the film that I made and following the journey of Amiri Baraka and reading his work, and he talks about this dual consciousness,
Yes.
that Black people walk around with, because we have to pretend to be perfect, we have to wear a mask, but inside we're really hurting. So to see him and have that gaze, like it's beautiful work. Like,
Thank you.
it's beautiful, extraordinary.
Thank you.
You speak in your bio, about how your grandmother really influenced your art. Can you speak about, what it's like navigating the art world as a woman of color, and how has sisterhood really helped prop you up in that process?
The art world is a tough place. I'm really in the thick of it now. Actually, I should say as of a couple days ago, but I've separated from the gallery I was with, and now I'm a free woman again. Happy about that.
Yes.
The art world is just what you think it is.
Can you speak a little bit about that? Because I don't think people, because even when I put my film out, people are like, oh, can I watch your film? I'm like, I actually don't own my film anymore. Somebody bought it. Somebody else owns it. Can you speak a little bit about that relationship if you can?
Well, I just, in general, an artist, we all want to make it. We want to be seen. We want people to buy our art, see our art. But unless you own a gallery, you're going to need to go to somebody and ask, can you show this artwork for me? And if that person agrees, they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to take a % because I'm paying the lights and the rent, and they are controlling. Then they could say, I don't want you to show that piece. I don't like it. Or they could say, I have somebody who wants to buy the piece, and I could say, well, I have somebody who wants to buy the piece, and they say, but it's my space. When somebody else can determine for you what you're going to do with your art, it gets contentious, but it's not always like that. There are some galleries that are really lovely that will be like, let's work as a partnership, and I understand that this is your work and this is what you should be doing. But it's tricky. It's tricky. So I'm out of the rookie contract. That's all. I'll just put it that way.
No, I thank you for saying that, because I think as artists, even me, we just care about the work. We just care about the creative process. But there's a whole business, alongside of it, and you really have to have business acumen to learn how to be an artist, protect your work, and not have people take advantage of you. Like, that's real.
You need lawyers.
Yes, lawyers.
Plural. Absolutely. You need a lot of business experts. You need wealth experts. You need, and like I said, I consult with the elders, but I talk to, when you mentioned Mr. Baraka, not that I could consult with him, but I can consult with artists and people who've been in the arts community, like Taryn Fuller. Where are you, Taryn? Taryn. Her father was the famous Norman Lewis, who's one of the hugest, most influential Black abstract artists in this country. But a lot of you may not know his name right off the bat, because you know names like Jasper Johns and Andy Warhol. Like, there's always going to be a racism in the art world itself. But I consulted with the elder artists, people who were somewhere where I wasn't. And I think that's really important, like, always learn. I'm not too bold, but I'm not too afraid even to just try and slide in the DMs and see, like, will this person talk to me? If I see somebody who's in a position that I want to be in, I'll ask, how did you get there? And can you help me get there? So I don't walk blindly, rarely ever. I ask a lot of questions.
Have you ever experienced any racism in the industry?
As Black people, there's invisible lines and things that we're not invited to. things like I could be shut out from things and have no idea. But there was a particular a car maker, very expensive European car maker who shall remain nameless. But there was a campaign that they were doing. They were looking for an artist to like stand in front of their vehicle, I guess, and be like a spokesperson. And I knew that somebody from the city of Newark had suggested me for that. And it was going good. But then when the last line of execs needed to judge who sits here and who's going to be the artist, and this was the European execs now, there was another artist who is of African descent, but looks nothing like blonde, blue-eyed. Although this person is of color, blonde, blue-eyed, and very beautiful. And I didn't get chosen, and I just knew because I heard from other people. They didn't know that I was up for it, but they kept saying, this artist is so gorgeous. This artist is so gorgeous. And I knew every time they said it, I knew that I didn't get chosen for that. Not necessarily because I was Black, but because I was a certain kind of Black and was not as photogenic, right? Maybe, yeah. So that was the first time that I was actually aware. I think it was better not to know, really, that I wasn't up for that.
This event is really about sisterhood. And, well, first, if you need us to slide in anybody's DMs or write anybody on Instagram, let me know. I will galvanize and we will go to social media war for you. You let me know. But can you speak about your village and how the women in your life have really helped you in your career?
The quilters have been huge for me. I mean, in my own individual life, my grandmother and my mother they didn't sew for jobs, but because they like to look gorgeous and beautiful. Like many women, all of our grandmothers and grandmothers and grandmas, they all sewed. And we have an incredible sense of style and fashion. My mother would look at pages of the models from before, like Iman and Beverly Peel and Naomi Sims, and see them wearing like some kind of Oscar de la Renta gown, and she would recreate that. Oh yeah, she was good. She was good. My mom would make like 3-piece suits or gabardine suits. Like she was really into fashion. And so me and my sister would make clothes for our Barbie dolls. And they looked terrible, but but that was the beginning of creating. And now that extended to most of the quilters that I associate with, I would say, are probably 60 years and older. Maybe the average age would be about 75. So when I'm in the quilting community, I'm always being taken care of because they're looking at me like a little sister. So they're asking me, do I need something to eat? They're asking me if I need anything, extra fabric. They'll actually sew for me if I needed help. I get like messages now from quilters asking me if I need any assistance. And they're also helpful in the way that if I need critique, they will say, you actually didn't do that corner right there. And so but I have this village of sewing and sewing and weaving and felting and embroidering artists who are always surrounding me and helping me from way back in the day till now.
Awesome. Sisterhood is so, as all of you know, sisterhood is so important.
Yes.
I don't know what I would do without my village. Y'all out there, I love y'all. Okay, I got to read this one from the paper. From Art Basel to being commissioned by Essence, Time Magazine, New York Times, your art is being acquired by the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History. Yeah, so if you're in DC, go check her out. The Art Institute of Chicago, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the Perez Museum of Miami, and right here at the Newark Museum of Art. Yes, you are accomplished, girl. What has that journey been like? Do you often like pinch yourself to make sure it's real?
You know, when I think about this journey, I think that I've always had very hardworking people around me and people who were not only hardworking, but they were successful. So although I'm on this journey and it feels good, I never feel like I've gotten far enough. I feel like there's big shoes for me to fill. Even from the quilts that I'm working, the subjects are letting me know. Like when I did the portrait of Harriet Tubman, I've done nothing. I mean, she freed over 300 people, and she couldn't read or write. I think about what is that kind of person who goes through the dark like that, back and forth, when you could just stay safe. So I'm always like being reminded, and even when we watch TV every day, we've gotten this far, but I can't walk down the street with a hood on, like we've gotten just this far, but if my home gets raided in the middle of the night and I die, nobody cares and nobody goes to jail. So I'm always thinking that there's more yet for me to do. Not just, I think about it as far as a Black woman, but I also think about it as far as the quilters. Because I have this community of people, they're all looking at me saying like, now that you are where you are, like we need help too. So open the door, make those introductions. So I feel like sometimes I feel like the weight of the world is on me because I have this nation of people who are suffering. We are suffering. So yes, I'm there, but there's always something else there. That for me, it's like it's this success, but it's the success of my people and the success of my family and my children, my community that means so much more to me than me as an individual.
Well, from one sister to another sister, I want to tell you, make sure you take your moment. Pinch yourself because it is real. Enjoy it. When you're paving the way, we all feel like this weight that we have to carry a burden, and especially when you're the first to do anything, right? It is a heavy burden, and you want to, pave way for the people behind you. But I want to make sure you are in your moment and that you are enjoying it and love it and appreciate it. Because all these people, they ain't here to see me, they here to see you, Miss Bisa, because you are a star.
Thank you.
Make sure you're a mom, you're a wife, and that's a full-time job all in itself. How do you juggle it all? And still be true to you and pursue your passion?
It's not easy. Without the village, I don't think I could. Without the help of my aunts and my mom and my dad, my sister, you need that community support. When my kids were little, I needed babysitters often so that I could work. Now that my daughters are 22 and 26, they're out of the house for the most part. So they'll come and visit, but it's not the same. So I would say for the mothers out there, young moms like yourself, to it's okay. You're gonna have time. But they always say they're only young ones. It's so true. I wasn't doing all the things that I'm doing now when my children were very small. It just was not going to work like that. So I think in the time that it should happen, it will happen. But I was always doing something, even if it was a little thing, because those small things led me here. So even if I just I had 3 pieces for sale at my friend's house and she had her women's meeting. That's something because that's taking me to here. Each step was important.
So for all the moms out there, don't forget about your passion. Don't forget about yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself as well. So we have a little surprise for you. It's a video. If we can, some people wanted to say some really nice things to you.
Okay.
Roll that video.
I thought it was a video from my childhood.
No, I wouldn't do you like that.
My name is Raheem Irvin, and I was a previous student of Miss Butler's in high school for 4 years.
My name is Tanisha Knight, and I am a former student of Bisa Butler.
My name is Manny Alcimar, and I was a former student at Miss Butler at American History High School.
My name is Kiana Brown. Mrs. Bisa Butler is my former high school arts teacher.
Miss Butler influenced my life in many ways. She always had me excited to come to school every day. I even found a way to try and get her class every time. She even had to make up courses just so I can be in her class.
Along the way in high school, she inspired me just to know that I can do whatever it is that I put my mind to and dream big.
Not only was she smart, creative, but the way she spoke to students, she spoke to them in a way that most teachers don't.
She has influenced my life because she displays what hard work and determination looks like. Because of her, I know anything is possible with motivation.
This is one time it was so funny. Miss Butler actually gave me an A- in her class, and I was like so mad. I was just like, oh, you give me an A- because I was like a huge nerd. And she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, Raheem. I didn't know that it was like that serious. It was gonna mess up your GPA. I'm gonna correct it for you. I'm gonna correct it for you.
In high school, I would always say that she was my mom, and she would always say that I was her daughter because we thought that we looked so much alike. We had someone ask us, was she my biological mom? And I'm like, no, not biologically. And they couldn't believe that we were not biologically related.
Being a Black woman coming from out of Newark and seeing her succeed and get to the level of success that she has gotten only inspires me to be even better than I am.
She is an artist. She is a mom, an educator, the epitome of success, of determination, of greatness. She is everything to be celebrated and everything needed to motivate our youth, especially our youth whom also happens to be Black.
I really, really, really am proud of Miss Butler, and I wish her the best of luck.
You deserve the best because you are the best. So Miss Butler, thank you very much, and I hope you remember me.
It's amazing how this journey makes you cross paths and affect the lives of others in ways that could never be imagined. Through my process, I'm inspired by your work daily. Your life is precious, your art is ineffable, and with so much love, I say thank you. Bask in all the glory you're so deserving of. We love you, Mrs. Butler. And with so much love, I say thank you. Bask in all the glory you're so deserving of. We love you, Mrs. Butler.
Those are some of our former students from History High School. And we have Tanisha Knight here. Tanisha, are you in the audience? Come on up, sis. We want to give you your flowers. Oh my God. I know, I got you good. I got you good.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
We love you. We appreciate you as a teacher. There's not many like you.
Thank you.
Now, I just wanted, I really wanted to honor you in that way because being a young teacher at History High School and just seeing how you had an impact on me and the children, I want you to know that you are deserving of this moment. You are deserving of the love. You are deserving of your flowers. So
Thank you.
walk in your light, girl.
Thank you. Thank you, Yana, and thank you to all of you.
I got you good.
I don't even know what to say. I'm so, wow, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we're going to bring Alexandra back out to move on to the next part of the program.
All right, Pixie Dust on that. Yes, that was such a beautiful conversation. 3 things in particular stood out to me. The first thing is, guys, we have to remember to ask for help. As Black women, some of us are actually afraid to ask for help, and we have the independent woman syndrome, and that sometimes gets us into trouble, right? So we have to make sure that we ask for help, but most importantly, there's an age group that has been known to be disposable. We need to reach back to our elders because they're the ones who know the magic. That was good. I love how she asks for people who have tested advice first. The second thing is your support system. It is so important to know who is in your corner. But most importantly, it's so important to show up as love and reciprocity. Because it's important when you get that in return. The third thing that stuck out, everyone speaks about generational curses and generational weaknesses. How about we start to lean in to our generational strength and our ancestral powers? Because this is what this is. Our ancestors lived through us within our DNA. They are born within us again. So the fact that she is doing work that have already been here, she can feel it. This is innate. So make sure you guys are starting to lean into your generational powers and change the narrative. So thank you for that, Bisa. Thank you. Now I want to bring up another beautiful, strong woman. It is very important for us to make space at the tables, especially in politics. So right now I want to bring up Central Ward Councilwoman, Miss LaMonica McIver. She here? She's not here, she didn't make it. That's okay, praise God, because I can read.
She's running.
So, listen, baby, we can have Pixie Dance. I seen you. Pixie Dance, okay? Okay, the show always goes on, baby. So we have a proclamation here for you, my queen. By Senate Majority Leader, Ms. Teresa Ruiz. Whereas Senator M. Teresa Ruiz, a duly elected representative of the 29th Legislative District, is pleased to salute Bisa Butler, who will be honored by Newark Moonlight Cinema and the Newark Museum of Art during a Moonlight Fairy Brunch on April 3rd, 2022. And whereas this prestigious accolade is being bestowed upon Bisa Butler in appreciation of her extraordinary accomplishments as a woman of color whose art has broken boundaries and enriched the lives of her fellow citizens. And whereas Bisa Butler is a renowned fiber artist who has created a new genre of quilting that utilizes textiles in the designing of fine art, and her works are in the collections of the Newark Museum of Art, the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture, and the Art Institute of Chicago. And whereas it is altogether proper and fitting for the New Jersey Senate to acknowledge Bisa Butler and to praise her as a woman of strong character and exceptional determination, now therefore, be it known to all that the undersigned hereby honors Bisa Butler and extends sincere best wishes for her continued success in all future endeavors. Now Ayana is going to also present her with an award.
So Senator Ruiz wrote the proclamation for you. She had to step out because she had another event, but she wanted to make sure that you were honored today.
Yes, girl, we're gifting you, honey. We're gifting you all the things.
And now you're officially getting your wings. It says, Bisa Butler, Queen Fairy, this award is in honor of your art and commitment to the culture.
Thank you, Ayana.
You're welcome. The day you decided your life was magical, you created magic all around you.
This is so pretty.
Yes. Praise God. Okay, so we're gonna go to Q&A from the audience. That's you guys. Do we have any questions from the audience for Ms. Bisa Butler as she has all her awards juggling in her hands?
Should I? Oh, okay. Yep. They're coming.
So sorry.
Mrs. Butler, do you have any idea how important you are as an artist? You are, right now for us, we can see you and you're here. And so for me, it's a great honor. But your work is going to live for hundreds of years. And so you are so significant. And, you know, we know Pablo Picasso and all of that, but we know Mrs. Bisa Butler, and that is just phenomenal.
Thank you.
Phenomenal.
I think when I had my exhibit first go to the Art Institute of Chicago, I was in a room with a bunch of curators and directors and people, and they were asking me questions like we are now, but every time I answered, they would start writing everything down, like furiously writing, and they were staring at me, like staring, and I was like, what is happening here? Because I was amazed to be sitting in the Art Institute of Chicago with all these curators, and then afterwards I asked someone else, I was like, why were they acting like that? Because I'm not all that. Especially at the time, they didn't really know me, I thought, but they said because they had never been able to ask any artists the questions before. The Art Institute is like the Met here, so most of the art that was in the space where mine was, ahead of mine was from like the 1500s. So they can only do research and consult scholars and look at a manuscript. But to be able to just sit there and ask the artist, what were you thinking? So it made me think about that mindset that museums are like these historical archives. And it's not for now. I mean, it's for now, but it's for later when I can't speak for myself and when none of us are here to even talk about what it's like to live during the COVID pandemic. When they're all gone, what record will be left? And so it was at that moment that I started like really thinking, I need to be careful what I say and I need to make sure I put out there what I want to be read about me or this art or about us. So yeah, I got it at that moment.
Ms. Butler and Ms. Morris, if both of you wouldn't mind speaking to your work as teachers and how your work as teachers has helped inform, because you were artists then and you were a filmmaker and you were already creatives when you were teaching. And so that idea that you have to have this sort of silo and be this career and be this person, and that's not actually, you know, that's a part of who you are and your own development. I support future teachers, so my motivation here is to think about, I'm very inspired by your work in education, and so I would love to hear more about how your work in teaching has informed what you do in your art.
You want to go first?
I think for me, teaching definitely taught me how to manage a crew of people. To be in a room and see 100 kids a day, you really have to have the patience of a God to manage that. So in that way, it allowed me to really communicate with people in a way in which they understand, because what you learn as a teacher is that you really have to speak to your students in their own language. You have to meet them where they are, wherever that is. And every student is different. Everybody has a different journey. They all come from different walks of life. But you can engage them if you make the effort to speak to them in a way in which they understand. So I've now taken that into my professional life, because sometimes adults are also challenging in managing staff and managing crews of people, especially in film where it's a very male-dominated world. So, you know, you got to mansplain to a man sometimes. Sorry to the men in here, but definitely. And teaching also showed me that because as a teacher, you tell your children, like you tell your students, yeah, your children, because they become your babies. You tell them, don't give up, pursue your passion. And when I was teaching, I was like, I'm telling my students this, but then I'm not also living it. So it made me really feel like a hypocrite. So I'm like, okay, I got to take my own advice at some point, and that's when I did decide to make the transition.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Following what we're telling the kids to do. And, especially as an art teacher, you're looking up, these artists. You look up Romare Bearden, you want to make like art like Romare, or you look up Jacob Lawrence, you want to be like Jacob Lawrence. And I'm looking at it too, at the same time, like, okay, what am I doing wrong? If I want to be like Romare, then be like him. And what did he do? But another thing I think both of us experienced was teaching teaches you to be a better human being, period. Because we all know you have to have love for every student in your room, whether their gender is not the gender that you want it to be or you expect it to be, whether they look the way you expect them to, whether they even act the way you want them to act. But you have to have love for them or you can't teach them. And also they'll turn against you because they know you don't care about them. So I feel like teaching prepared me to be in the world with other people and actually care about people who are not the same as me. And I feel like teaching forces you to have a sense of understanding or an idea of what it's like to walk in somebody else's shoes. And I think that way it helps my artwork, because the same way I'm looking at these people from 100 years ago or 200 years ago is the same way I would look at a human being now. Like, what is it about? What is in the core of them that I see that's beautiful and good? So I look at my subjects that I'm working on the same way I did with my students. What can I do to honor this person, to show them the way I see them? And I used to think that in the morning sometimes. You remember those days when you have a kid who's just really pushing your nerves because the kid is having some kind of issue. Either they don't like you, or they don't like the class, or they don't like anything. And I used to think when I walked in there, no matter what happens, that I have to make sure that I don't do any harm to the kid. I can't have an attitude, or I can have an attitude, but but you don't want to do or say anything that will hurt somebody's child. And I think about the artwork that I make, and I imagine people looking at it. I don't want anybody to look at my artwork and feel undervalued or devalued. And a lot of times Black people, when they go into museums and these spaces, they do feel like they're inconsequential. Or like the sculpture that was in front of I think it was the Natural History Museum. It was like, I think it was Roosevelt and I think a Black person and a Native American person are walking and Roosevelt's on the horse. But see, that structure of that artwork, it's already a triangle. So who's at the top? Who's at the bottom? A child coming in there in a class trip, they're undervalued already. You walk, and some people will ride. And I think about things like that when people come into the space, how they're gonna feel. And I think about things too, like the class trip. How are the kids feeling? And when I see that people feel good, I know that I did something right.
So I have a question. As a former student and now a teacher.
Where are you? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Oh, there you are. Hey, Tanisha.
I want to know, how do you bring your authentic self to teach every day? Because I'm finding as a new teacher, mixing my ideas, the school's ideas, and what I believe is best for the kids is kind of hard as a new teacher. So I want to know, how did you bring your authentic self to school each day?
Like you said, I feel like, is this on? All right. It's hard though. It is hard. I used to spend hours on my lesson plans because it's not just that I want to teach about let's say I want the students to learn about Frida Kahlo or Basquiat. It's like, it's more than that, because I want my students, I have to get them at what they are interested in. And then I have to get them what I'm interested in and what the school district wants them to learn. So those lessons, it was always a tap dance and magic happening and a lot of studying and praying too. Sometimes I would pray before the kids came in the morning, especially if there was a student who I knew I wasn't reaching. And there would be hard days. There would be hard days. And then there'd be those moments where I remember I took you kids to New York, and one of your classmates stopped. They were all getting on the bus. We had saw the city, saw the museum, we're getting back on the bus, and one of the kids hugged me. And this kid, I did not think cared about me or the class, and it really surprised me that the kid was genuine. The kid was like, I want to say thank you, Miss Butler. So like that moment, like you realize maybe you think they're not getting it, but they are. And they also see your effort. And I also think it's important, if you're struggling with a particular class or student, to talk to them. Sometimes one-on-one, or one you and two kids, talk to them about, like, I care about you and this is important to me and I want this to be a good experience for you. So what is it that I'm missing?
We have time. We have time for one more question.
One more.
Well, no. Okay, I'm getting
Just
the no.
one more.
Oh,
The mic is, they took the mic.
sorry.
Oh,
You see, I didn't do it.
I'm sorry. Well, we're literally about to go have brunch, and then you'll be able to ask a lot of questions there.
Yes, so it is my mic on?
yours is on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It is time for us to eat. Are you guys hungry? Can we clap it up again for Miss Bisa Butler and Ayana Morris?
Thank you. Thank
Clap
you
it
so
up, clap it
much.
up, Dory Dog.
Thank you.
And Pixie, I like that. Pixie.
So we actually gonna take a group picture. That's new, y'all. They want to take a group picture, so everybody stay seated. The photographer wants to take a group picture right from here. We're gonna do the pixie dust for the picture. Okay.
Like this? Okay. No problem.
All right, pixie dust time. Let's do it.
So go down there and join them. Hey, stand up. Stand up. Everybody stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Put your hands in the air. We want pixie dust. We want the love. We want the smiles. With all the energy. All right?
Count them in.
All right.
In 3, 2, 1, pixie.
Perfect. Thank you. That was awesome. Beautiful.
All right, we're going to go to the first floor. I have been your host, Simmons, founder of Think Like a Boss. And I will see you guys upstairs because we hungry, baby. Or if you want to leave it back here. You're welcome, baby.